Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, and welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by Paul Dottino. The phone number is 201-939-4513. We're going to talk about practice today. Paul, I'm going to let you go first because my doctor's calling me. I need to pick up this phone.
Okay.
So why don't you talk? I'll be right back.
Okay. I hope that goes well. Today was the first official padded practice of the summer training camp, which meant full gear. Everybody was able to go full tilt. Now, of course, as Coach Brian Dable said, you want to be smart. You want to be careful. You know, don't throw anybody to the ground to get anybody hurt. And I'm glad to say that as we sit here right now, we have no reported injuries from guys getting harmed in any tussles. So that's great news. But the bottom line is, we had a full padded practice today, some team drills. We had some one-on-ones where, I'll be honest with you, to me, and you know, we got to see three different things that I was interested in today. The special team stuff, I'm still kind of wishy-washy on. But we got to see some of the trenches drills. We got to see some of the one-on-one passing drills downfield. And we also got to see some team 11 on 11. Those were the three more important sessions of the practice today. And I thought, let's go to the trenches first, John.
Sorry about that. I had to find out how long I had to fast before a blood test tomorrow morning. So,
okay.
that was a phone call I had to take.
All right. Well, no, it's perfectly fine.
It was important information.
It is. And I'm glad that he wasn't telling you anything bad.
John's got to eat, so I got to find out when I can eat.
You can have lunch today?
Luckily, it's only 8 hours, so
okay.
I'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now,
anyway.
here's what I thought.
Sorry about
the
that,
trenches drill today. That was over on the side field. For you folks who were here, that would be field number 1. That was not where the bleachers were, where everybody was packed in front of the bleachers. So you probably couldn't see it too well. I thought it was a bend but don't break situation for the offensive line. For the most part, John, the way I saw that drill is that
you were pretty far away from it too, weren't you?
I was right down the goal line. Mm-hmm. I was opposite field, right down the goal line watching. And that, to me, actually, that wasn't a bad viewpoint because I could see the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. And what I saw was a lot of push by the defensive line in their drills, but the offensive line refused to yield and break. It was a bend but don't break kind of session for me. So I'm of the opinion that the defensive coaches will be happy that they got push, but I'm also thinking that the offensive line coaches are also happy because the guys stuck with it. They sustained their blocks, and they didn't just break and let the pressure get to the quarterback.
Yeah, there were some power rushes where they made the offensive lineman backtrack a little bit, but folks have to understand, these one-on-one O-line, D-line drills are designed for the defense to win.
No doubt.
I mean, they have the advantage. So the offensive line is always going to give up some ground here. Mm-hmm. And my general takeaway from the drill was that I thought the offensive line, as opposed to what we saw in games a lot last year, they did not give up any quick losses. Like they weren't like, all right, right off the bat, the hand swipe, get to the quarterback. Right off the snap, swim move, get to the quarterback. Spin, get to the quarterback. I only counted 2, and they probably ran, I got 2 full pages of notes here, so probably, at least 20 to 30 reps, probably almost 30. 30
it was
reps
over 2
overall.
dozen. Over 2 dozen.
And maybe 2 or 3 quick wins by the defense.
That's about it.
Most of them were against backup guards. They weren't even against starters.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought the offensive line did a pretty good job. I thought their hand placement was really good. They were getting their hands inside well, which allows you to control the defensive player. And I just thought that it was a better showing, especially on the first day of pads, where you're still working into it as an offensive lineman. I think that is even more of an advantage to the defense because they're just exploding, trying to get upfield. And I was pretty impressed with the way the offensive line played in that drill. I'll go through a couple individual guys.
I had one favorite one.
Please, go ahead.
I had one favorite one, and I'm sure you're going to list it. Brian Burns, Andrew Thomas, where Thomas actually lost his center of gravity. And it appeared as though he had gotten beat and he was off balance and he had gotten twisted in a bad way. and he kept with it.
That's when Burns tried to make the secondary move back inside,
and he
stayed with
refused.
him.
He refused to give it to him.
I thought it was a good back and forth.
That was a great rep.
I don't think either guy really beat the other. I
that's
just think
a draw.
It was good on good, and I thought
it's a draw.
I think they drew both of their reps. To be honest with you,
I was that to me was the most exciting rep of the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I
enjoyed that one.
That was good. I thought the best pass rusher in the drill was Kayvon Thibodeau. I thought he was consistently winning. I think he had 4 reps, and I think he decisively won 3 of them. And he won them in different ways, too. He won inside on 1 rep. Another rep, he flashed power, backed off the offensive lineman, and then he kind of got inside to win that rep. Another one, he just won beating outside with a rip move. So
there was one outside move.
Yeah, that was the one with the rip against
Yep.
them, but that was against 70. So that was he did it against different offensive line.
Yeah.
That was against Kajust. Him and Illuminor had one where it was kind of a draw, where they kind of drew each other a little bit. But
I called that one a draw.
But Thibodeau did get close to the quarterback,
did.
but he didn't get past Illuminor.
Bend but don't break.
Right.
That's
again,
that's how I'm calling it.
I'm not sure if I was on with you. Was I on with you when we got the call about the vertical sets last week? And we talked about how they might use more vertical sets with,
I don't think
with
so.
Rosillo. Well, we talked about that. And vertical sets, for people that don't know, is when instead of when you have your offensive line, right? Instead of at the snap, the tackle's kicking out. That's a horizontal set. They kick back, which is a vertical set. So you're giving more ground in those sets, but you're giving yourself more reaction time. So you're kind of buying your quarterback more time. But the disadvantage is that if you get bull rush, you can get pushed into your lap at the quarterback a lot easier.
Yep.
So that I thought was interesting. I thought Aaron Stinney had 2 really good reps during those one-on-ones where he just anchored down. One was against Nacho, if I recall. One was against Jordan. He's 64.
One was
Stinney,
against
right?
Riley.
He's against Stinney 64.
Yeah,
correct?
he's 64.
Yeah, so I got one against Riley. I got one against Nacho. And then I got one against 90, which is Ryder Anderson. So I got 3 wins for Stinney against 3 different players at guard. So I thought he was pretty good. I like the way Carmen Brasillo has the entire line, even though it's one-on-ones, he wants the entire line to come off the snap, the offensive line.
Yeah.
And if a guy doesn't time it right or is too early, they lose their next rep. So he was pulling guys off, even if they weren't live on the one-on-one. If they did not get the snap count right and weren't ready to go, they would pull him off.
See, I was too far away to hear those directions from him.
Which is interesting.
Okay.
He wants, even if you weren't involved in the play, he wanted you to be locked in, paying attention to the snap count, or at least taking your set when the other guy does his set. Ojulari had a couple good rushes, I thought. Beat Azudu. Azudu had a couple good reps, couple bad reps. I thought he was up and down a little bit. Who else? I thought Joshua Miles, the tackle, had a really good couple reps. He actually stopped Brian Burns on a spin move once.
The one against Burns,
It was nice.
Well, basically, he just became a brick wall.
Well, but that was when Burns tried to do the outside spin, right?
And,
so he kind of got into a stretch, then he tried to spin outside, and Miles
he just
kept his balance.
He squared up.
What you're trying to do there, if you're a defense, if you're the pass rusher, Miles goes to punch you. If Burns spins off, he wants Miles to kind of overcommit and fall forward. But he kept his balance, and he stayed in front of Burns, which was good.
You know what he reminded me of? He reminded me of like a center in basketball, who's going to make sure he gets his position and he's not going to yield. And that was an impressive snap for him. I agree with that.
And then he went against Benton Whitley, who's one of those kind of undersized edge rushers, outside linebacker types. And Whitley tried one of those little kind of like, almost like the equivalent of a running back jump cut, except he tried to do like a little jump cut inside to win inside, and Miles kind of caught him in the air, and he got him.
That wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, there was, just to keep in mind, John Michael Schmitz is still dealing with a minor shoulder, so he didn't do any of the one-on-ones. Obviously, Evan Neal didn't do any of the one-on-ones. Dexter Lawrence was sick today, so he didn't do any of the one-on-ones. I was actually joking with Aaron Stinney. He came out and did a little media after practice, and I said, I thought you did a really good job. He goes, thanks, man. I go, yeah, I thought, you guys did, one-on-ones, they're tough. It's advantage defense. I go, probably doesn't hurt that Dexter wasn't out there. He goes, yeah. And he's like, no, it wasn't a lot of against that dude.
Yeah, for sure. Coach Dable was talking earlier today when he was asked about Runyon was taking some center snaps yesterday. He said, look, we were going to get him some center snaps during camp anyway, and it's only because JMS is a little nicked up that we got him some earlier in the camp than we wanted to. Jimmy Morrissey got some center snaps today. Did you notice him?
He did.
I mean, he was third. He was like third team, but he got some snaps.
Yeah, and Antonio Chapman, I thought had a couple wins. Elijah Chapman, I'm sorry, Baby Bison. He's only like 6. He's listed as 6 foot. That dude ain't 6 feet tall.
I don't think so either.
He is not 6 feet
I
tall.
don't think so
I
either.
think I'm taller than him when he's wearing his spikes. So he ain't 6 feet tall. I don't know how tall he is, but I don't think he's 6 feet tall. So those are my takeaways, mostly from the O-line, D-line one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Were you watching any of the wide receiver, tight end, running back one-on-ones while I was over there at O-line, D-line?
What I did see, because I was kind of in the middle, and then I was on the line of scrimmage, then I moved back into the middle. What I liked about what I saw with the one-on-ones is that the wheel routes by the running backs were very productive.
Yeah, I'm talking to Matt Sytak. He told me that Dre Miller, Dante Miller, not Dre Miller.
Dante
sorry,
Miller.
Yeah.
Dante. Dre Miller was the former tight end with our buddy in Maine.
Yes. Little Turbo and then Tyrone Tracy both had a couple double moves, and they kind of got over the top against linebackers.
It is very interesting to watch these guys because, we know that Miller's got speed, right? Because he timed so well in his pro day under 4.3. And we know that Tracy is a former wide receiver, so he's got those kinds of moves in addition to the speed. But both times on those plays, and I'm not gonna name the linebackers, I'm not. But I felt bad for both of them because there was just no way. There was just no way they could keep up with those guys. And when they were in their reels and they went down the sideline, it was like all you had to do was wait for the ball to come down because it was a no-brainer.
We're not allowed to give up like formation and stuff like that for some of these practice plays, but they have, I'll say it as vaguely as possible, I've seen them try to create matchups with the running back at different times throughout team portions and drills.
And that's because they know they've got some speed there. And quite frankly, and this is why I also don't want to name names because you'll understand who was supposed to have the assignment of picking up those guys coming out of the backfield. That's not for us to say on this program. But let's just say, the running backs have done a very good job in eluding the tight ends for the most part in the first week of practice.
No question about it. All right. Team portion, it was first day of pads. And again, folks, if you're listening to this on the archive, our stream is down today. So we people can't listen live and call on live. We put up on Twitter that people can still call in and talk to us. We have one guy in the line right now. We'll see if we can get a couple others. And if we go less than an hour today, we'll go less than an hour, but we'll give you a pretty detailed look at practice just in case we have issues getting calls up. And we'll try to get to some tweets as well.
Does our setup still allow the caller on hold to hear the show live?
Absolutely.
So there's another incentive for you to call.
Well, yeah, but no one can actually hear you while we're doing this to get them to call. They're hearing this after it's already recorded.
That's true.
I'll go outside and just scream it.
Pearson, what we really need you to go is to get back on that human-sized hamster wheel to get the stream back up.
That's true.
People don't realize when he's like screening calls, he's actually powering the stream by running on a treadmill, and that actually is what powers the
it's
the
a mix of
stream.
that and solar power that really gets the stream going.
Well, Maz does a good job. We put a block of cheese in front of him.
Wow, so are you saying that Maz is better at this than Pearson is? Is that what you're saying?
No, just that we have to give him incentive. That's all.
Oh, so you're saying Maz is lazy.
I'll run no matter what. He needs the cheese.
Okay.
He requires extra motivation is basically what we're saying here. Anyway, team portion of practice, more running plays obviously than we've had because you're going to do more running plays when you have full pads and guys can do stuff. And look, we talked about this when they signed them, but I think the short area quickness from Singletary and his way that he kind of bounces around to find the holes behind the line of scrimmage is something that kind of jumped out at me a little bit.
I agree with that, and I also really like the quicks from Turbo Miller, and I also like it from Tracy. Both of those guys, not just in the passing game, but in the running game, when they hit the hole, and then if they're able to bounce it outside, they get out there quick, John.
I know, and again, this is. I don't know what the coaches think, folks. No one has told me this. This is just my personal observation, and if I'm wrong, I'll apologize. But Eric Gray has worked out for him holding on to this backup running back job.
Right now, based on what I've seen to this point, I would say he is probably number 4 for me. I think Miller has jumped him based on what I've seen.
Again, this is just based on what we've seen. We don't know what the coaches are seeing, and maybe Miller and Tracy are missing all sorts of assignments because they're rookies. We don't know that.
We don't know that.
Just from what we've seen, just
the productivity when they have the ball
and how they pop physically. Like they look different when they have the ball in their hands and they're running around.
They do.
So I agree with you. So and again, Paul and I did not compare notes about practice.
We did not,
by the way, so
on purpose, so that we could do this during the show.
Exactly. I think Azeez Ojulari has flashed as a pass rusher over the course of camp. I saw that a couple times in this game
so far.
Today.
Right,
just stay healthy.
He's doing okay so far.
Andrew Phillips, I thought, has had a couple good practices, and for me, what impresses me the most, and this might sound weird because he's a corner. His coverage skills isn't what's popped to me so far, where he's like hanging with this guy, tight one-on-one coverage down the fild.
I like what he does downhill.
It's a smart anticipation at the line of scrimmage. He's filled a couple holes in the run game today. Practice yesterday, he almost jumped a little quick screen pass to Wan'Dale Robinson that was almost an interception.
Absolutely.
He was about a half second away from getting 2 hands on the ball and picking it off. I think... when they picked him, they talked about how he's a smart player and he has good football instincts. That, to me, was what popped to me about him watching him in practice so far.
No doubt. Absolutely no doubt. I think, the interesting part for me, and he ran mostly as, I think we could say this, he ran mostly as the slot corner today. Okay, he himself talked about it.
He told us he's playing the slot.
Right, he told us during the media session that he was running primarily with the starters as the slot because people asked him, what does that mean to you? And he's like, no, it just means that I've got to be heady and I've got to make plays. And, the game is very, very fast. But he says the other guys are giving him a lot of help. He said McLeod and Isaiah Simmons in particular are 2 veterans who have really helped him understand the speed of the game and the mentality. And he clearly has a tremendous amount of pride in his physicality. That's why he enjoyed today's practice so much. He said, I couldn't wait to get the pads on because I wanted to be physical. And one time, he said the first play today, did you catch this? He said the first play today, he attacked the line and he shot the hole and he thought it was a thud practice and not a full contact practice. So he pulled up and he said he hears from the coach after the play, what are you doing? You got to go harder than that. And he's like, oh, great. I didn't know I could do that.
And then he went too hard the next time.
And then he went too hard the next time. And they had to tell him, hey, don't hurt anybody.
Yeah, because look, you want to thud, but you don't want to bring people to the ground. That's
right. You wrap up. You want to wrap up.
And it's a tough balance because you wrap up, you get too close, you trip guys fall. That's how guys get hurt.
Yep.
But it's something you got to try to figure out. Deontay Johnson, I thought, had a nice stop in the run game. I think he's actually flashed a little bit over the first week of practice. He was an undrafted rookie free agent last year. He was Toledo, right? If I remember right. Deontay Johnson.
Yep.
Big kid too. Good looking kid. I think the
Beavers had a nice play today too in coverage.
Yeah, he did. That was on a pass breakup. They tried to get it over his head. He was in zone coverage down the seam and he got his hand up, knocked it away. Not a ton of deep downfield passes today.
Very few.
Unlike yesterday where they were just airing it out left and right, there just wasn't a lot of downfield stuff. Drew Lock, I thought, had a fun little play where there was a little pressure from the outside. He stepped up in the pocket and kind of pitched it to Gunnar Olszewski, and he had a little run after the catch. Lock's fun. He's such like he looks so relaxed with the ball in his hands when he drops back. He's just such a gunslinger where you just feel like he's going to put the ball where he wants, coverage or not, hell or high water, and he's just going to throw it and he's going to try to make a play, which can be fun but also be dangerous at the same time.
Yeah, I think, the comment I made about him in the spring is that he's a lot more mobile than I remember him being in college and certainly in his first few years in the NFL.
Yeah, he moves pretty well.
He does move well, and that part of it has impressed me.
He's not fast, but he's elusive.
He's athletic.
Yeah.
And I think that's good for the Giants because if Daniel Jones should have to come out of the lineup for whatever reason, I don't think they're going to have to tinker too much to have Locke play quarterback.
No, probably not. I agree with you. David Long had a couple pass breaks ups, and he tipped one to Javarius Owens who came up with the interception.
That was the only turnover of the day on my sheet.
Me too.
Yeah, I didn't think there was any others.
No, I didn't have any others either. Let's see, what else do we have here? Again, I just think, with the quarterbacks, I still think they're trying to figure out ball placement with some of these wide receivers sometimes. I want to see some, I want to see the passing game become more precise. Whether, like Darius Slayton talked about yesterday, whether it's, the receivers running better routes, getting after the football, quarterbacks putting in the ball where they have to put it. There's just too many plays where it's not perfectly in stride or in rhythm. I'd like to see that get a little bit better as we move along here, Paul, which I imagine will happen, especially a guy like DJ who only did, what was it, a half dozen 7-on-7 reps per practice, and that was it. And this is his first team reps. Bobby Okereke had to stop during practice. So, I think I couldn't tell if it was either Belton or who's the other guy that was there on that play. It was either Belton or Hawkins that had a pass breakup on the sideline. That was in the last team period. That would be towards the end of practice. I couldn't tell if it was Hawkins or Belton. They were both in the area. I think it was Hawkins, but I'm not positive. But those are the major notes that I have.
Was that the play on Boykin?
Yeah, 89. I had the pass going to on that.
Oh, that's a different play. We're talking about a different play then.
Yeah, I have Jack Stoll over there, so it could have been Belton then, I guess.
It was a different play.
Might have been zone, yeah.
There were two pass plays that I did want to mention that I thought were really good.
Yeah, the one to Boykin, that was I had Long with the pass breakup on that one, number 20. Well, that was towards the end of practice.
Boykin had a couple of chances at some plays today and didn't necessarily come up with the ones that he wanted to. Jones did have a throw to a diving Neighbors who made a nice catch.
That was the short one, right?
Yeah, short.
Again, that's one of those passes, though.
It didn't
have to be there.
Didn't have to. Neighbors made a nice play.
No, he made a nice catch. And by the way, one of the team periods, we should tell fans, they had him snap the ball from their own 1-yard line, so they were practicing getting out of close to the end zone.
And then the other pass play that I really liked was Jones threw to Manhertz, the big burly tight end,
nice
left seam, and Manhertz, that guy. For those of you who haven't seen him, he's about 6'5", very boxcar kind of frame.
Yeah, he's a blocking tight end.
He's a moose. Okay, he's a moose.
6'6", 260.
And he just looked around, saw the ball, spun, grabbed it, made the nice play. To me, that was probably the most athletic and the most fun catch of any of the throws today during team drills.
Yeah, Tyree Jackson had another after a couple seam routes yesterday. He had a couple catches too. And we didn't do a show after yesterday's practice, Paul. So maybe we should just briefly mention what happened yesterday because we didn't have a show because it was Sunday. Just a ton of beginning of practice, a lot of deep balls. They could not connect in the beginning part of practice yesterday with the deep balls, Paul. Some deflections, some underthrows, things like that. But then in the second half of practice, you had really well thrown balls to Neighbors and Hyatt down the sideline, pulling the ball right over their heads. I guess you would rather not having them have to extend and fall down to make the catch, but I'd rather have that than have a slight underthrow where the defensive back can recover,
no doubt,
and get after the football. So, I think as they figure out the speed on these guys, just put it out in front of them. Let these guys go out and get the football. Do not underthrow it and give the DB a chance to get it.
No doubt.
Just put it out in front and let the guys run under it.
It's funny because guys like Hyatt and Neighbors, they have had very little time to work with Daniel Jones. Remember, last year when Jones got hurt in the middle of the season, Hyatt had still not become that big a part of the offense yet. And so he and Hyatt have hardly had any time together other than throwing ghost routes by themselves during the offseason. So he's still trying to learn Hyatt's speed and the gear that he's got. And Hyatt's still trying to learn how to perfect his route running, quite frankly. So, there's going to be a curve here during practice, and we're only a week in. There's quite a bit of polish and gloss that's going to have to be put on this passing game before they open up against the Vikings, and that's what this is for. So it's kind of laughable, when people make too big a deal out of something that isn't exactly perfect. It's the end of July, for God's sakes. We're not even at the end of August. We're at the end of July.
Well, I would.
And Malik Neighbors, too.
Well,
how many passes has he thrown to Neighbors?
I would just warn people, don't take too much positive or negative out of what happens in the first week.
Exactly.
So
that's the point.
Don't lose your mind on how great things are. Don't get mad if things aren't going well. Things change awfully quick. At this time last year in camp, the offense looked like a well-oiled machine. Daniel Jones is hitting Darren Waller all over the place, and he looks unstoppable. So just keep that
exactly. I tell people, take this stuff with a wheelbarrow full of salt.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. All right. 201-939-4513. You are listening to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino with you. Pearson, who's on the line here? I don't have the document up yet. Who do we got?
UC from St. James.
UC, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
We got you loud and clear, man.
Hey, thanks for calling.
Nice. Yeah, I'm just driving back from training camp. I thought it was solid. You know, I like how Dave's is structuring it, doing a lot of 11v11s, so Daniel can get as many reps as he can.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the Chris Manhurst catch. You know, he's not really a pass catcher.
Yeah, I think you want the 11-on-11 stuff to give him, a feel for operating in the pocket, stepping up, getting the ball out quick with guys in his face. I think those are the important things you want to see with DJ in those 11-on-11 drills.
And, the other part to that, too, when Jones is working with the first-team offensive line, it's also for their feel, too. Dave's didn't say that. He just mentioned about Daniel. But your offensive line has to have a feel for the quarterback as well, where he's setting up, when he's going to take off with the ball.
Depth of the pocket, things like that.
That's very, very important.
Sure.
Nate Soldier had forever trying to figure out the depth of the pocket with Eli Manning compared to Tom Brady. It was one of the problems that he had when he was here.
Yeah, no doubt. I think they should get as many reps as they can. But I got a quick bold prediction and a quick one for Paul. So my bold prediction, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last Giants player to score double-digit touchdowns in a season was Barkley, right?
I would, I haven't looked that up, but
sounds.
I would
right.
say, if it's not Saquon, it's got to be Odell. But I'm pretty sure Barkley did that run and pass combined in at least one of his years.
Yeah. So I'm going to say Malik's going to be the next guy. He's going to do that this year.
I don't know how bold. You see, I don't know how bold that is. It's a prediction. I'm not sure how bold it is, though. I got to be honest with you.
I mean, we don't really have many double-digit scorers on our team. You just said Odell might be the last one.
Barkley did it in 22, and Barkley did it in 18. He had 10 rushing touchdowns in 22. He had 11 rushing touchdowns in 18.
Well, let's put it this way. I think Neighbors is the most likely Giant to do it, so that kind of disqualifies it from being bold.
Right.
Right?
You know what though? You see, in fairness, double-digit touchdowns for a wide receiver as a rookie.
It's a big
generally
deal.
Speaking,
it's a big deal.
That is bold.
And over 1,000 yards. How about that?
Okay, I'll take it. Pearson, put it in the doc. It's a weak one, but I'll take it.
All right. And my quick one for Paul. Listen, I share my love for Italian food. So listen, you have to give up one for the rest of your life: pizza or pasta. Which one is it?
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Oh, I guess I'm going to give up the pasta.
So would I. I'd also give up the pasta.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't live without pizza. No, I can't do it.
I agree.
Can't do it.
I agree with you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it,
UC.
guys.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah. You can. Is there like pasta substitutes where you can still have the same type of dish, but like not do it with pasta? But
I don't go for substitutes, but
there is no. But my point is that like these like pasta dishes, like you can have Alfredo sauce on something else. Like you could have
noodles. Noodles are technically not
pasta or noodles. What do you want? What's the difference between pasta and noodles?
They make vegetable noodles now too.
They do.
Yeah, no, but
they make different kinds of noodles.
Yeah, but I think all that counts.
Well, he didn't say that.
If it's I'm telling you, it counts. If it's made of grains and it turns into like a molded thing, it's a pasta.
Okay.
I'm not gonna have pasta. I'll just eat noodles. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Hey, I'm not giving up the pizza. I've already made my decision.
Yeah, you got.
It's okay
because like I'm saying, like you can. Like, the stuff that makes pasta great is, like, the different types of sauces you can put on there. You get the meat sauce, the bolognese, all that stuff. You can still make the sauce that you love and just put it on something else. But there's no replacement for pizza. Like, what else are you going to put the cheese and the sauce on? There's really no replacement.
I totally concur with that. I mean, look... pizza.
Pearson, we're not live. There's no calls. We have to find something to talk about. Stop laughing over there.
What is this? Is this Big Blue Kickoff Live, the Food Network edition?
Yes, it is now. Yeah, because you can't replace pizza.
No, you can't. You can't. back to the caller's point, though. There actually was a football thing I wanted to mention.
Yes, please go ahead.
No, there is. There is a football
I had another food question for you, but we can move on.
Okay, yes.
Oh, okay. You really do? Oh, come on.
After you make your football point,
I want to go back to the football point.
And I have a couple tweets, too.
I want to go back to the football point. To this point, and I thought it was important because today was a full practice, John. Dable did call the offensive plays once again today, as he's done throughout the spring and the offseason. And today, being a fully padded practice, I thought that was another significant step forward. And the fact that he continued to do so just continues to lead us down the road that suggests he's going to do it.
I'd be surprised at this point if he doesn't. Now, they're remaining cagey about it. They're saying that, we don't know what we're going to do. But of all the evidence we've seen so far, it appears that's where we're headed unless something changes.
I mean, had he not called them today, that would have been significant. It would have been something to look for.
He's called them every day.
But he did, but this was the first padded practice.
I mean, that shouldn't affect play calling, though.
Well, I know, but everybody always says this is like the next step in the training camp. And had he changed today, it would have been interesting. The point is he didn't. And I thought that certainly told you that he continues to be on a path that looks as though he's going to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. 201-939-4513. Let's get our business out of the way here.
Yeah.
Run or Walk with Giants Legends. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and kids run presented by Quest on Saturday, September 7th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt. After the race, stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants Legends and a live DJ. Register now at Giants.com/5K. And go check out the Giants Huddle podcast, folks. Right now we have Jeremy Fowler's interview up there from last week. Is Pepper up yet, Pearson, or not yet?
Not yet. Right after this show.
Paul Dottino's interview with Pepper Johnson will be hitting there as well. Tomorrow, we're going to have the next edition of the Giants Top 100 podcast pop up in the Giants Huddle podcast. Then we'll have our, on Wednesday morning, our reaction to the final episode of Hard Knocks coming your way in the Giants Huddle podcast field as well. So a lot of stuff coming your way, folks. We're probably going to have 3 to 4 episodes a week here throughout camp because I keep saying, we'll only do 3, and then more people keep showing up that I want to talk to, and then Pearson has to do more editing. So that's kind of where we are right now, but go check out the Giants Huddle podcast, giants.com/podcast, Giants mobile app, or just search for Giants Huddle on your favorite podcast platform. Before I get to the couple tweets here, Pearson, you see an additional follow-up to Paul. What do you got?
Any sauce. You can only have one the rest of your life, excluding marinara.
Okay, that's a good question.
Meat sauce. Just
so bolognese, a little bolognese.
Yeah, or you know what? Tomato and basil's not bad.
Okay, I like tomato basil has a little sweetness to it.
Now it depends. It depends how sharp it is. Now you can have a sharper.
Do you want it sharp or do you not? Want it sharp?
I'd rather not.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd rather be on the mild side.
Yeah, you don't like spice.
But you can have it sharper, and that tends to, in my opinion, like lower the grade for me. I'm not a big fan.
Sometimes tomato and basil can get a little too sweet for me too. Sometimes they can get a little too sweet. But that's mostly the store-bought brands because sometimes get a little too much sugar in there.
Do you like the vodka sauce, Paul?
What's that?
Do you like vodka sauce?
No, I do not.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah. Nope.
I'm not a huge vodka sauce guy. I like vodka sauce with they actually do it here in the cafeteria. Vodka sauce, pasta, sausage, peas.
Oh,
it's a nice little combination. I believe it's there's one of the restaurants that I used to live with on the Upper West Side, Parpadel, had a nice dish with that. That was always really good.
Well, that's part of the great thing about living in this area is that you could get great Italian food at a lot of places.
I think I'd probably go bolognese. I think I'm with you. I think I'd probably go meat sauce.
You could do a lot with that.
I would not go Alfredo. Alfredo's too heavy. I can never.
No.
You guys are.
I'm more of a red sauce guy.
This includes like hot sauce, barbecue sauce.
Oh, no.
Those aren't
I'm not
sauces,
talking.
Those are condiments.
Okay, well, let's go condiments. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
you guys are still thinking about pasta.
Are very different. Well, you did as you said sauce.
Okay.
You did say that.
Well, I would go either hot sauce or Chipotle.
Because if you're going condiments now, we're talking like ketchup or mustard on French fries, and I'm going ketchup.
If I had to pick one condiment, I might take Chipotle mayonnaise. Because you can dip fries in that. You could put the only problem is that you can't put it on a burger or a hot dog.
I would put it on a burger.
Really?
For sure, yeah.
You know what? Not a hot dog though.
No,
you
not
couldn't
a
put it
hot
on
dog.
a hot dog.
No.
Because ketchup you could put on anything. So it would be tough between Chipotle mayo and
Yeah,
ketchup.
I'd go with the ketchup because the burgers, the fries, you can even put ketchup on onion rings if you wanted to.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
some people prefer mustard.
Chipotle mayo on a nice
But-
like turkey sandwich, though. Oh, it's pretty
Interesting.
delicious.
I've never put ketchup on turkey.
No, neither. No, that's why Chipotle mayo has a little bit of an edge there. Anyway, all right, let's get to our notifications here. I don't think we have a proud sauce sponsor, do we? That I should mention for the Giants. I don't think we have any sauce sponsors that I did bring up in this conversation.
Advertising executives.
Yes,
there
come
you
on.
go. Sauce sponsor for
Yes.
the Giants.
We can have Paul eat sauce on camera for you. He'll do it. We can do some kind of taste test for you. It'll be great. All right, we got some tweets here. All right, here we go. I'll go down the line. We got 3 of them, and then I'll even take a look at the BBK email address and see if we have some older questions
Okay.
I can pull. For the folks that are listening, by the way, I'll try to revive that. I'm still working on getting that voicemail box up where you guys can call up and leave messages with questions. We haven't been able to get that done yet. Paul, we did talk to the people. I need you to talk to your IT people and make that happen for us, okay? You are the official liaison to the IT folks.
Oh my goodness.
So you need to make that happen for us.
They see me and they run the other way.
Yeah, well,
That's what they do.
it's not just the IT people that do that.
Oh, okay.
So I will go through a couple of the BBK. And by the way, if you want to send in email questions, it's bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. Not Big Blue Kickoff Live, not BBK. bigbluekickoff@gmail.com if you want to send in questions to the show. We will get to them. Okay, here we go. Owen wants to know, what would you consider benchmarks for improvement for the offensive line during training camp? I think the first benchmark was your first padded practice. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of what I mentioned before, Owen. You don't want quick losses. That's what kills you. You want to make them work their way back to the quarterback, to at least give the quarterback a chance to get the ball out without having a guy hanging off of him and getting to your second read. Don't lose quick. That, to me, is the first benchmark, which frankly has a lot to do with being more fundamentally sound, because when you lose quick, it's when you lose your fundamentals. So that, to me, is the first benchmark, and I think, from my view, they achieved that on the first day of practice.
Yeah, I would succinctly just say sustain. That's the magic word, sustain, which is exactly what John's talking about. As long as you can sustain and impede the guy getting to the quarterback in a heartbeat, well, that's going to be considered maybe a draw. Even if it's not a win, you can get a draw if you sustain long enough.
And again, that's balance and hand placement, right? Like, you
No
just
doubt.
can't overextend. And if you get your hands inside and get your hands on the opponent's chest, and you keep your butt down and your balance good, you're going to be in a good position. Some guys still might beat you because they're faster than you or stronger than you or quicker than you or whatever. But at least you're going to be in a position where you can make them work for it a little bit.
I'm really interested to see what happens when the Lions get here next Monday and Tuesday.
Oh, I'm pumped.
You know,
Absolutely.
that to me, and look, John and I were out in Detroit last year.
I want to see Schmitz and Neal back on the field, by the way, but I don't know if
That'd be
I
great.
think we might get Schmitz. I'm not sure if we're going to have Neal back.
I
by
know,
then. We'll see.
I know. But, I was very, very happy with getting to watch that stuff. And I remember last year, the writers, because of where they have to stand in Detroit for the practices, they were totally opposite where we were. We could watch those line drills, and they couldn't.
Yep.
And so we were able to report on that and tell you guys the Giants actually did well in those line drills.
Yeah, I thought they held their own. Which
They
of course
absolutely
did
did.
not prove to be prophetic.
It turned out not to be. You're right.
The Lions also do not have elite pass rush. They have Hutchinson. Other than that, they do not have elite pass rushers. So they have added more guys this offseason, so I'll be curious to see that matchup.
I know this. Dan Campbell's guys are gritty and scrappy,
Yep.
and they will make you work. Even if they're not the most talented guys, they are going to make you break a sweat.
Now, what I want to... go ahead.
That's to me, in a way, that's a better test right now for this team, because you want them to have to work and to have to sweat and to have to be gritty, and you want them to have to be resourceful as opposed to maybe just the pure skill stuff. Because that stuff, a guy like... I don't know. Well, I don't want to pull Aaron Donald out of a hat here. But when you have some of your premier pass rushers, John, they're so good at what they do. Chris Jones. Let's take Chris Jones.
Sure.
If you're practicing against Chris Jones and he unleashes his toolbox on you, let me ask you something. How many guys are actually going to be able to compete and make themselves better going against the Chris Jones?
It's like blocking Dexter Lawrence.
Right. There's not much to gain from that.
Right.
But if you're going up against a guy who doesn't have that great toolbox, but it's going to make you work your butt off because he's going to hustle and he's going to be gritty and he's going to be physical and he's going to try to wrestle through you. Well, you know what? You can actually gain some grit by going against a guy like that.
As excited I am as I seeing the Giants block the Lions' defensive front, I'm more excited to see how this Giants defensive line does against maybe the best offensive line in football in Detroit.
They're good.
You know,
They're good.
If this Giants team, Paul, is going to be better this year than a lot of people think and the Vegas odds think they're going to be, it's going to have to be because the defensive front is a dominant unit. So I don't need them to go out there and dominate the Lions' offensive line because nobody dominates the offensive line. But I need to see them have some wins in there against some really good players, whether it's Frank Ragnow or Penny Sewell. Who's their right tackle now? Sewell's the right tackle. Who is the left tackle? Who's the right tackle now in Detroit? He's a good player too. I want to see them at least get their wins against that Lions offensive line, which is very, 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 very.
Oh, they got
very
Taylor
strong.
Decker on the left side.
Taylor Decker on the left side.
They
Sewell on
move
the right
Sewell
side.
back
Yes,
to the other
that's
side.
right.
Now, you know,
And they have Kevin Zeitler and Graham Glasgow as their two guards. Like these are they're real players.
Oh no, they're solid. They're very solid. So, you know, to me, yeah. Do I want to see the Giants win? Yeah, I want to see them win those matchups. At the very least, though, you better be able to do no worse than a draw. Because if we think the Giants' defensive front is going to be one of the better ones in the league, well, you can't lose those matchups. Draws are acceptable because that's an elite offensive line. So a draw is a draw because that means if you're going up against a lesser line, you can probably win. That's why I feel that way.
And I'll go back to it. You know, you mentioned benchmarks with the Lions. The one-on-ones are great. You know what did not go well for the offensive line against the Lions last year?
Oh, I remember very well.
The team drills.
That was bad.
Once they got into 11 on 11,
that was bad.
The Giants offensive line couldn't block anybody.
The first day, brutal.
It was a disaster.
It was brutal.
And that's when teams start running twists and stunts and communication. So that's the next benchmark, right? We talk about being good in the one-on-one situation, which is good. But where has this Giants offensive line over the last 10 years had the biggest issues? Twists, games, working together. You hope that Carm Brasillo is going to make that better this year, but that's your next benchmark, right?
Yep.
In real life, twists and stunts against another team where you don't know what's coming. How do you hold up against the Lions in practice next
Well,
week?
I think the guy's question was camp, and to me, you won't see that stuff, and you won't even see much of it in the preseason games.
You'll see it in the joint practices against Detroit. We saw it last year.
They'll run them. That is true. They will run them. They will run them. But in the preseason games, guys are so vanilla.
Yeah, correct.
You usually don't see that.
Well, that's why I mentioned the joint practice. I think that's where you're going to see it.
Yeah, and remember they have one with the Jets too.
That's right.
Coming up later on.
And the Jets do have.
Oh, yeah.
One of the better pass rushes. Quinnen Williams is excellent. Now, Bryce Huff is in there and Hassan Reddick is holding out. So you're missing one of their really good, but they have Jermaine Johnson outside. They have Will McDonald outside. They got players over there that can rush the passer.
I was just telling Bob Papa earlier today. I said, Bob, you don't know exactly who's going to play for the other teams during the preseason. But if I'm the Giants and I'm trying to figure out if this offensive line is going to be functional, well, I'm going up against the Detroit Lions front. I'm going up against a Houston Texans front. And I'm going up against the Jets front.
Texans front is
It's not bad, though.
No,
it's not terrible. It's not terrible. They're okay. And, then it's not like they're going up against Don Bosco JV now.
Right.
Correct. So there could be some adequate tests ahead in the next month.
Absolutely. All right, question is, I think we hit the offensive line with the benchmarks well.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good question.
Yeah.
So I think those are the benchmarks I'm looking for. Another camp-related question that I'll get to from D-Town. Is Neighbors that good, or do we have an issue with defensive back? I think Neighbors is that good.
Yeah.
And it's funny you asked the question because last year, when the offense was doing so well in camp, the question was, well, the receiving core this good, or do we have issues in the secondary? And I think it ended up being that we had issues in the secondary.
Yeah.
So I think Neighbors is that good. So to me, he's just done everything that you would expect of him. Like, he's been as good as advertised. I actually think his ball work, trying to catch passes with decent coverage on him, late hands, hand catches, that to me, he actually has had a couple of balls where I thought he should have caught them throughout camp, and he's probably a 2 or 3 that he hasn't come up with.
That's because we already expect a lot.
You know, they weren't that difficult to catches, though, that he needed to come up with. And after both those practices, when he had him, he did a lot of jugs machine work after practice.
He was down on himself.
He was not happy with that.
You could see he thought he should have had them too.
He knows it too. But in terms of getting open and quickness and separating, I think Neighbors has met expectations, which were exceedingly high.
Jay Alford, Giants defensive tackle, retired now, of course, was here today signing autographs.
Oh, was he? I didn't see Jay. Great.
Yeah, Jay pulled me aside and he asked me about Neighbors. He goes, "What do you think?" And I said, "Jay, the toolbox is full. He's got them all." And he goes, I don't doubt that. And that's really what it comes down to. There's no question that Neighbors has every single tool that you want. The skill set is outstanding. And now it comes down to the want to. It comes down to the maturity. It comes down to learning the playbook and learning what it is to be a pro, not just on the field, but off the field. All of that stuff together is going to determine how quickly he becomes the kind of guy who's going to throw fear into the other team. John, we've talked about this. Is it possible he could become a headache player within the first month of the season? Maybe it is possible. I don't want to put a cap on him or a limit on him or a ceiling on him, if you will. It would be great if he does. Could he do it? I suppose it's possible. That's a lot to ask of a kid who just turned 21 years old yesterday. I mean, that's a big load to put on him. So I hope for the Giants' sake, right, that somebody else has a really big game against the Vikings opening day, whether it's Hyatt or Slayton, and that at least for week 1, Neighbors is allowed to fly under the radar just for the first week of the season. I do. I feel that way. I would love to have somebody else have a huge game and have Neighbors just kind of skate for a week and then bust out maybe against Washington.
I'd like to get Pearson's take on this, too. I don't think Malik Neighbors is going to be capable. And this is not to his fault, just because of who he is, where he was picked, and his ability. I don't think it's going to be possible for Malik Neighbors to fly under the radar.
No, you're right.
Period.
It won't be. It won't be.
You agree, Pearson?
Yeah, I agree with that.
But, I mean, if they could get somebody else to have a 100-yard game week 1,
That'd be nice.
I'd really love to see that.
All right, well, how about this? Let's play a game. Who do you think is the guy that's most likely could get that 100-yard week in week?
Hyatt.
That's what I would say, too. Just because there's a chance of that one big play, right, to kind of get him over the
No
top.
question in my mind that Jalen Hyatt right now is trying to enhance his ability to hit a big one. You could see it. You could see it. He's itching to become a guy who can hit some big ones.
And I'm looking forward to in Neighbors, because you can't really see this in practice because no one's trying to tackle. Like, we don't even have a taste for his run after the catch ability yet.
No.
Like, that's something you can't see until you get into a game.
We've kind of seen it at LSU, though.
Well, correct. Yes. I just mean live and in person, we haven't had a chance to see.
I know.
All right. We have one other question here. This is more of a big picture question, but we can hit it too because I just brought up the data. You might want to bring up over the cap on your computer here because we got a cap related question.
Oh, okay.
Coming in here. Anthony West wants to know, could you do a compare and contrast of where the Giants are salary cap health wise compared to the other 3 teams in the division, not just for this year, but looking into the future as well? Are we in a better position financially moving forward than the other teams in the division? Okay, so just talking this year right now, I'm just looking at over the cap, and again, this is just what over the cap has listed in terms of cap space. There's no way, we have no other numbers we can go by, right? They have the Cowboys and Giants both between 11 and 12 million as of right now. The Giants, of course, got some of that money back because of the Darren Waller retirement. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking for they have the Eagles at $25 million in cap space, which is
Washington
right
at
now.
37.
And Washington just hasn't spent a lot of money yet because it's a new regime and all that.
Well, they don't really know what direction they're headed in.
So if you look at the 2025 cap chart, the Cowboys actually have a ton of cap space next year at $64 million. Think about why. You know what 2 players aren't currently under contract next year for them? Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. So that cap space is going to disappear right quick.
Indeed it will.
Once those 2 guys get signed to contract.
Yes.
So that's going to be the case for them. But, they have the money to sign those guys now. Like, you see the cap space next year?
Yes, they do.
They have the money. So
Yes,
they'll be
they
able
do.
to do it, but that's going to drain their ability to do whatever else they're going to want to do moving forward, obviously. Next year, right now, they have the Eagles for just $6 million of cap space. So if they spend, that's a deal where they're going to be right up against it. And, they defer a lot of money on those deals. That stuff's going to start hitting
That's
now.
why they overspent for Barkley, because they're trying to hit now.
They're trying. They think they have a 2 or 3 year at most window that they're trying to hit, and I don't blame them. I do it too.
Well, it worked for the Rams,
and they're trying to hit it. So that's what they're trying to do there. The Commanders next year are just above Dallas with $71 million. The Commanders, guys, really. Do you have their depth chart in front of you, real quick?
Yeah, I call it up.
Bring
right
it up
here.
an hour, lads. I believe, just off the top of my head, the only guys they're paying right now are Terry McLaurin on offense. I don't think there's another offensive player, that they're paying. Tyler Biadasz is to make a big money.
Well,
I'm not counting him.
What did they pay?
And then on defense,
what they pay the running back?
Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a big contract. And then on defense, they're just paying their 2 tackles, right? They're paying Allen and they're paying Sweat.
You're right.
They don't have guys on contracts. So
well, Payne and Allen.
I said that's what I said.
You said Sweat.
I said Payne now, and I'm sorry.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. They're not really paying anybody else big money right now.
I don't think Wagner's getting much money, and I don't think Chin's getting much money.
No, they are not. So the Commanders, in terms of money to spend, they have. I'm not going to say infinite, but they have plenty.
Yes.
They'll have as much
Yes,
money
they
as
do.
they need.
Yeah.
The Giants next year come in right around the middle of the league in terms of over the cap. It's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They're around 17th. So they're right in the middle of the league at $22 million. That would, of course, count Daniel Jones' whole cap hit on that for next year because he's under contract. So depending on what happens with him, that can move. You can gain more space, or if he plays really well, you hope you got $22 million next year. And again, the Giants are in good situation with their players where, unlike the Eagles, who have already built this into their contracts, they actually have the ability to move money around on guys like Brian Burns, guys like Dexter Lawrence, guys like Bobby Okereke, guys like Andrew Thomas. So the Giants are much more capable of creating cap space as opposed to Philadelphia. And then I don't know how Dallas is going to structure these big contracts they have coming down the road. They've been trying to go away from doing a lot of those void years and stuff like that so they don't get into that dead money situation. But you might have to fit those guys under the cap over a long period of time if they want to kind of create a window to try to win like the Eagles do. Because they got other guys coming up. They have Deron Bland they're going to have to pay. Tyler Smith is somebody they're going to have to pay going down the road here. Michael Parsons, obviously, is another guy they're going to have to pay going down the road. So, the cap's going up for them, which is fortunate for them because as the cap goes up, though, we'll see now with this DirecTV lawsuit if that limits
the
amount the cap might go up. We'll have to see what happens with that. But
and that thing could take a while, too, to
with the appeals? Oh, that could be another 4 or 5 years for all we know. Isn't that lawsuit almost 10 years old?
Yeah.
Like that lawsuit's been going on forever.
It's crazy.
So we'll see what happens with that. But, that's kind of where we are. I would say the Eagles are in the most tenuous situation moving forward with their cap. Dallas would probably be the second most tenuous, not because of who's under contract, but because who they have to pay and they haven't paid yet.
Right.
Then I would put the Giants, and I think the Commanders obviously have the most flexibility in terms of their cap.
No, I totally agree. And so, it's funny, but because of the way the business is done in this league, you try to create maybe a 4-year window if you can, based on your contracts and how you stagger them and how you manipulate the bonuses, et cetera, et cetera. And if you can't take advantage of that window and make some hay during that time, usually, the window then closes. And it just comes around. It's cyclical.
Michael Erda, quick email. Again, bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. And then we got about 2 minutes and we'll say goodbye here. You can't call on if you want the email. Question, this key NYG moment was not mentioned in some of the top play stuff. The Eric Howard forced fumble against the Niners at the end of the game in the 90 championship game. LT recovered it. Matt Barr, game-winning field goal. That was up there. That was, I believe, a final 4 play in one of the 4 brackets. I think it was a 3 or 4 seed in one of the brackets. We've talked about that play. To me, that is one of the greatest defensive plays in the history of the Giants. It might be the most consequential defensive play in the history of the Giants. That late in the game, which you're going to lose the game if he doesn't make it. Try to find me a defensive play that had a bigger impact on the Giants winning a Super Bowl. Good luck. I don't think you can.
Roger Craig was such a reliable back, too.
That's right.
This is not a guy who put the ball on the ground a whole heck of a lot. And for Eric Howard to penetrate like he did and punch it out, that in itself was a ridiculous play because you have to know, A, Craig has good hands. B, he's holding on to the ball.
Yeah, he did not fumble.
No, the ball was punched out. And, obviously LT, Johnny on the spot, because where did he live? Well, in everybody's backfield. So that's why he was able to then scoop it up and, lay on it. And that set the whole thing up for the Giants and Hostetler to lead them down the field for the winning field goal.
I do have a couple fans lamenting that you cannot stream Hard Knocks internationally.
Oh, I did not know
Whether
that.
in Europe or even in Canada, apparently.
No
So
kidding.
Apparently that's a thing, asking me to try to figure out a way to get that done for them. Sadly, I do not have that type of pull, folks. That is not a Schmeelk decision. I wish it was. I do suggest, if you're really into it, to go check out our Hard Knock reaction episodes that are up there. We kind of give you a full fill-in of exactly what happened on the show, but that's the best I can do. Unless Paul has other ways to stream things that maybe you can't stream otherwise. Paul, do you have any way you can find streams on the internet?
I have absolutely no idea that Max does not have an international tunnel,
I think
so to speak.
It does, but I don't think it has Hard Knocks on it. I think it's only U.S. streaming.
Well,
Because I think HBO is international, right? I've been on international hotels where they've had HBO.
I thought so too.
Yeah, but I don't think it has, they probably have, this is U.S. streaming, this is Europe streaming, and international.
To be honest, with the way the NFL has expanded its global reach and plays all these games in other countries, I'm shocked that they wouldn't have made a deal with HBO that would allow the program to go international.
Maybe you should make a couple calls. Make it happen.
Just pop into the United States every Tuesday.
Fly in and fly out. You can stop over. So you want to set up a stopover in Newark. You don't have to leave the airport. You get to Newark, stream it on the Newark Wi-Fi, or wherever you're flying in from, and then just fly right back out again.
Well,
just make sure you go to Terminal A or C. Both of them are quite nice now.
Pearson, you're going to have to help me with this because you're more techie than I am. Don't they have things called VPNs? That you could use a VPN from a different country, which would allow you then access to that country's programming?
Yeah, I don't know much about that, but I've heard that is something you can do.
Wow, Paul, that is one of the most tech-savvy things I've ever heard you say. I am really impressed.
I wasn't being very definitive.
No,
I was more asking the question.
I think you're right, actually. From what I know about VPNs, I think you're correct.
Because I've had VPN people send me ads like, do you want a VPN? And I've never signed up for one, but they say, you can get VPNs, which allows you then to go to a server, I guess, with your internet into another country.
Yeah, the whole point is that it
allows you different range.
Yes, the whole point of VPN is to create a privacy window so people don't
security
know where you're
purposes.
streaming from.
Right.
But yeah, I think theoretically you could do that.
I know. I mean, that again, and I'm not. I don't know if that's technically legal or not.
No, VPNs are legal.
I guess they are, right?
No, VPNs are legal.
No, VPNs are legal, but
VPN,
can you get access to another country's programming? Yes, I think you can. Is that? I guess that's a loophole. I guess that's legal to do.
How about a new New York Giants tech podcast with Paul Dottino?
Oh,
Pearson?
no.
Your thoughts about that?
Not at all.
Think that could work?
Yeah, that would be really good.
Look, if I'm going to do anything technical, I'm going to get some kind of first down chip into football so we could get that squared away. That would be the most technical thing I'd like to see right now.
I think I talked to Cynthia Freeland about that, right? At the end of my podcast with her.
Or something?
Yeah, they're using like a laser positioning system to try to figure it out. The problem is that trying to figure out where the ball is when the knee hits. But I think there's a way for them to sync it up in the program where once they see where, at like what time code the knee hits, then they can go back and look at the ball data and see where the ball was. So it's all kind of triangulated. I think that was at the end of the Huddle podcast with Cynthia Freeland.
Okay.
You should go back and check that out. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. Thank you to Pearson Butler. We'll get him back on that hamster wheel tomorrow to get that stream going. He hurt his ankle yesterday, folks. It's tough. He just couldn't run on the wheel today. And we'll be live tomorrow for another Big Blue Kickoff Live. I have no idea who's on tomorrow's show, Paul. Do you?
I think it's you and me again.
No, isn't tomorrow Cross or no?
Is it?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Someone will be on tomorrow at 12:30, hopefully live. Otherwise,
ya.
hope you enjoyed the archive. We'll see you then.